Part 40. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 391. Brother Lu, you are so lucky, Wang Zhenqiu couldn't help but say while eating. Father Lu smiled proudly, it's only thanks to you, brother, that we have the happiness of a family we have now. Wang Zhenqiu glanced at Zibao. The little guy was sitting in Feng Qingxiu's arms. He stretched out his two fat paws towards the bowl of golden pumpkin rice on the table, which was in front of Feng Qingxiu. Enough is enough. Before reaching the bowl, the saliva fell drop by drop and fell on the bib. Smelling the aroma of the food, the little guy was so anxious that he said, "Ah, Mom has stewed fish soup for you. You let Dad hug you, and Mom will make some noodles for you, okay?" Therefore, Zibao, who moved to Lu Jiang's lap, did not resist and kept his big round eyes open obediently. When Feng Qingxiu got up and went to the kitchen, the little guy in the one-piece floral cotton trousers began to twist around, twisting his butt and kicking his legs. He was not honest at all. Lu Jiang's left arm was strangled on his soft belly, and his right hand raised a toast to Father Lu, Wang Zhenqiu, and Uncle Su and his wife. Uncle Su, have a drink. Let us drink 2 cups to stimulate blood circulation and warm up the body. Lu Zibao, on the other hand, kept slapping Lu Jiang's arm, staring at the wine glass and reaching out to grab it. Little fat man, do you want a drink? Okay, come on, let's have a drink too. Lu Jiang dipped the tip of his chopsticks into some wine and intended to lick his son, who stretched his head, but was immediately stopped by the elders. 11 Bao, are you 8 months old too? Father Lu stretched out his hand to hold his grandson in his arms and glared at his son fiercely. Zibao lay in his grandfather's arms, giggling. Lu Jiang pretended to be angry and said, "Good boy, did you frame your father on purpose?" At this time, the little fat man couldn't understand again. Feng Qingxiu walked out of the kitchen carrying a bowl of noodles. She happened to hear a knock on the door and asked hurriedly, "Who is it?" "Xiaoxiu, it's me," Miao Fengqin said outside. "Your uncle is gone, I'll call your uncle's house for dinner." When she said this, Miao Fengqin looked like she had finally found relief. "My dear, it's you." Feng Qingxiu held the bowl with one hand and opened the door with the other hand. "My uncle is eating at our house. Come in and eat together, so you don't have to go back and cook alone. Not troublesome enough?" Lu Jiang heard the sound and came out of the main room. "Yes, De Jinzi, if you don't mind us using the chopsticks first, come in and eat together." Miao Fengqin waved her hands towards them both and said with a smile, "I won't go in, I won't eat at your house. I won't call your uncle until the food is ready at home." Who would have thought that he would eat at your place with such an expression on his face? "Since that's the case, I'll go back first and take out the steamed rolls in the pot. Go and eat quickly, don't let it get cold." With that, he turned around and left without even entering the door. Wang Zhenqiu was relieved when he heard his wife outside saying that his brother had left. "What's going on?" Uncle Su asked with a smile. Because Wang Zhenqiu has always had a good attitude towards Uncle Su and Aunt Su, of course, behind the back of other people in the production team, so Uncle Su is happy to deal with him. After all, his old couple must rely on his protection. "Oh, my brother, although the family ugliness should not be made public, Wang Zhenqiu needed everyone to give him advice, so he explained Wang Zhenjun's purpose in just a few words. No matter how you say it, he is my brother. If the family really can't afford it, I really can't ignore the food, but the current situation is that they are all eating commercial food and thinking about the food reserves in my production team." Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 392. Feng Qingxiu had discovered this situation a long time ago. She was secretly glad that Lu's father was not as criticized by the people as he thought. She was also glad that the children were successfully settled under her name. Everyone knew about it when the food was distributed, and it seemed that no one said anything. I thought my uncle was in charge. Lian Dadi thought it was Lu Zhang who was serving as a soldier on the front line, and that he was practicing medicine to gain virtue. Wang Zhenqiu laughed. If they didn't have the foundation they laid before, do you think they are so good? Feng Qingxiu remembered what Hongling Niang said when she was digging wild vegetables that year. Even her married daughter said that the Lu family was kind, which showed that the Lu family's usual behavior had long been deeply rooted in the hearts of the people. Although it is inevitable that there will be villains who will cause trouble and follow the country's regulations when the blood is high, most people will not do it, and this is enough. I never heard Dad say that, and Ajiang didn't tell me either. Feng Qingxiu glanced at Lu Zhang. Lu Zhang innocently said, I don't even know, how can I tell you, he was not at home at the time. He only found out later that his home had been ransacked. He knew nothing about the specific situation. It was also recently that his father passed on his experience to him. Only by giving it to myself did I understand the ins and outs of that year and the old man's predictions for the future. Wang Zhenqiu smiled and said, your father will not sing praises to himself. Uncle Su poured a glass of wine for Father Lu. Brother, I won't say anything else. I respect you. Father Lu smiled and was not polite. After drinking, he said to Wang Zhenqiu, brother of yours, you have to be careful. I think the situation in the country is not very good. In only 3 to 5 years, there will be a turmoil. There are not many people who use chicken feathers as arrows. I don't know who the last sentence was sarcastic to, but everyone present understood it. Can you beat him to death with a stick? Wang Zhenqiu asked. Of course, the beating to death he mentioned did not mean to beat Wang Zhenjun to death, but to prevent him from doing evil. The people present understood, thought about it carefully, and shook their heads. This is an era when gentlemen are conscientious in their work, and this is an era when despicable people show off their power. If you can't hit a snake within 7 inches, then its bite will be hard to guard against. The only way at the moment is to stop with silence, Father Lu said calmly. Wang Zhenqiu sighed, I think so too. If the soldiers come to cover up the water and the earth, I don't believe he can turn the world upside down. It's not him who has the final say in the Wanglu brigade. Feng Qingxiu was worried about the trouble he would bring to the Lu family in a few years. How will he solve the problem of food? Your brother-in-law is the best person to save face. Face is more important than anything else. I remember my aunt said that on the day of my cousin's wedding, my uncle didn't even give me any gift money, but he still sat on the top. A person with good face wouldn't do this, right? However, Wang Zhenjun was dressed like a dog at that time. Wang Zhenqiu smiled and said, he acts like he is the best in the world in front of us mudlegs. He doesn't care about us country people, so he does that. But in the city, in front of the neighbors, in the workplace, in front of his colleagues, he has a different look. He is very proud of himself and is most afraid of being embarrassed. Zhu Danny has already caused a scene. He will never let anyone know that he came to our place to ask for food. You will not come in tomorrow morning. Want to send something to the city? I'll go to the city too and I'll send him food. He prepared 20 kilograms of dried sweet potatoes, a few corn cobs, a bundle of dried beans, a few Chinese cabbages, and a basket of spicy radishes. He used the mule cart of the production brigade to first send Lu Zhang Feng Qingxiu to the post office, and then drove slowly on his own. Go to the door of the mining bureau. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 393. Why don't you go to Wang Zhenjun's house? Sorry, he doesn't know Wang Zhenjun's home address. Wang Zhenjun may be afraid that people from his hometown will come to fight against the autumn breeze. When he married his wife, he did it in the canteen of the mining bureau. His brothers and sisters from his hometown have never been to his house to drink a sip of water, nor have they entered his son's new house. "Comrade, don't park the mule cart at the door," Lao Li, who was guarding the door from the mining bureau, said. However, his voice was very soft, because he saw the old man in front of him wearing a torn dogskin hat and an old cotton padded jacket with lots of patches. The cotton padded jacket had no buttons and was tied directly to the waist with hemp rope. He was wearing black cotton trousers with tied trousers underneath. Also has patches upon patches, wearing a pair of patched black cloth shoes with 1,000-layer soles on his feet. There are 2 words written all over his body to show his identity: farmer. An old farmer, with a bronze face covered with wrinkles and thick hands and feet. It was clear that he had been doing farm work a lot. Wang Zhenqiu took a step forward, held Lao Li's hand, and said honestly, "Comrade, I'm looking for my brother. Could you please ask him to come out? It's not easy for me to drive dozens of kilometers to come here. Look. The sky is overcast, and it seems like it's going to snow again. I have to rush back early to avoid freezing the mules in our production team. Comrade, who is your brother? Why don't you go to his house? Have you found your work unit?" Lao Li was very puzzled. If someone sent something to the hometown of a worker in the unit, who wouldn't be hiding it for fear of being discovered? They are all quietly delivered to your home instead of directly found at your work unit. Besides, if they are brothers, can the elder brother know the address of his brother's home? Wang Zhenqiu touched the patch on his dogskin hat embarrassedly. "I have never been to my brother's house. I don't know where he lives. No, my brother said that his nephew's wife is pregnant and there is not enough food at home. He wants to tell me I borrowed the grain reserves from the production brigade, but the grain reserves were collective. How could I dare to move? Even if I was the captain, I could not move. I set an example and refused. Later, I thought, no matter how difficult it is, I can't go hungry. Brother, you can't starve your niece-in-law. I heard that my nephew-in-law's father is a cadre of the mining bureau, so I talked it over with my wife and squeezed some food through my teeth to bring it to my brother." After he stuttered out the reason, Wang Zhenqiu continued, "Oh, I forgot to tell my comrade my brother's name. My brother and I have similar names. My name is Wang Zhenqiu and his name is Wang Zhenjun." Upon hearing that it was Wang Zhenjun, Lao Li's expression changed slightly and he looked at Wang Zhenqiu carefully. Seeing this, he quickly shook Wang Zhenqiu's hand and shook it vigorously. "Comrade Wang Zhenqiu, we haven't seen each other for many years, right? You are such a good branch secretary and captain of the Wanglu Brigade. Even if I look at the gate now, I won't hear your name often." "Ah," Wang Zhenqiu was stunned. "My wife's name is Fenghua, and she was also a flower of your Wanglu Brigade back then." Lao Li was very proud. The national policy is good. After liberation and before the founding of the People's Republic of China, we both went to the city to work as workers. You should know that, right? Feng Huahua went back to Wanglu Brigade before, and I should have met you. Later, I was injured in the mine and could not do heavy work. In the past 2 years, I was transferred to the mining bureau to guard the gate, send and receive some newspapers and documents, etc. My wife was here. After working in the coal mine for several years, I became a women's director. My daughter is a clerk in the county committee. I heard that the Wanglu Brigade was praised by name during the county committee meeting. No one died of hunger in 3 years. As soon as he heard the word Fenghua, Wang Zhenqiu knew who he was. You are Li Dazhu. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 394. Fenghua was not from the Wanglu Brigade. Her surname was Zhou. She fled to the Wanglu Brigade with her parents during the war. Her parents died of illness not long after. Fenghua was 10 years old at the time, and the Lu family took her in as a little girl. She was smart, had studied with her parents, and knew how to read. She was quickly promoted to the old lady's house. From a young maid to eldest maid, she changed her name to Fenghua. When she got married, the old lady gave her a dowry. Wang Zhenqiu worked as an errand in the Lu family when he was young, and of course he was very familiar with Fenghua. Fenghua and his eldest sister Fengmei lived in the same room. Sometimes he would prepare things for Fengmei, and he would also prepare one for Fenghua, just like his younger sister. Treat. However, Fengmei's character is not as good as Fenghua. After getting married, Fenghua came to visit the old lady every year, but Fengmei never appeared once. Later, I don't know what the old lady of the Lu family and Lu's father said to Fenghua, but Fenghua never showed up again. Not long after, the vigorous campaign to allocate land to local tyrants began. After many years, not to mention Li Dazu did not recognize Wang Zhenqiu, even Wang Zhenqiu did not recognize Li Dazu. He knew that Li Dazu and Zhou Fenghua were both workers in the city, but did not know that they had worked in the coal mine. When Li Dazu heard Wang Zhenqiu call out his name, he said happily, "Yes, yes, I am Li Dazu. You threatened me back then, saying that Fenghua had a bad life and you would come to me to settle the score. Over the years, Fenghua and I also quarreled over trivial matters. I waited and waited, but when I didn't wait for you, I thought you had forgotten. Time makes us grow old," Wang Zhenqiu lamented. "I didn't expect to meet you here. You nobles forget things so much. I don't know where you are and I can't find you. Why can't you go back to Wanglu Brigade?" He said this deliberately because he knew that Fenghua was not an ungrateful person. Li Dazu looked around and whispered, "How dare you go back, for fear of causing trouble. However, we are paying attention to the situation of the Lu family. We would rather stay away now so that others do not know our relationship. If something happens in the future, no one will notice if I help you secretly. My daughter is in the county committee, and my son is in the municipal committee. Although they are both small officials, they are very useful. Now, I know your brother, but your brother doesn't know me. Oh, my wife's name has been changed a long time ago, now her name is Zhou Xianghong." Wang Zhenqiu suddenly said, "The recruitment quota assigned to Wanglu Brigade that year." Li Dazu chuckled and did not deny it. "I just said, how come there are recruitment quotas for our brigade?" Meeting Li Dazu finally solved a mystery in Wang Zhenqiu's mind. "You must know that the recruitment quotas in the city are very tight, especially the quotas for minors. In order to squeeze in, everyone has to work hard to squeeze in. It's mind-boggling. Many times, the first requirement for recruiting workers is urban household registration and academic qualifications. Rural people are rarely considered." Li Dazu waved his hand, unwilling to take credit. "Brother, I'll leave you an address later. If you have any trouble, send someone to report it. If you can help, I won't refuse. But I think you should be fine. If you can use us, I have a name, and most people won't dare to touch you." No one in the Wanglu Brigade starved to death. Wang Zhenqiu had made great contributions. As long as he agreed, his promotion was a sure thing. However, I heard that he was reluctant to leave his father and fellow villagers and was only willing to stay in the Wanglu Brigade and do his best for the people. Wang Zhenqiu said, "Stop laughing at me and call me brother." Li Dazu glanced at the things on the mule cart and gave Wang Zhenqiu a thumbs up. "Big brother, I haven't seen you for many years, but you are still the same as before. If your youngest had learned a thing or two about your essence, he wouldn't be a small clerk anymore." Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 395. Wang Zhenqiu squatted outside and waited, and Li Dazu went in to find Wang Zhenjun. When he saw someone, he would ask where Wang Zhenjun was. Everyone is curious. When the person asked him what he was doing with Wang Zhenjun, he would smile and say, "Wang Zhenjun is such a good brother." Wang Zhenjun came home and asked him to lend him some food. I didn't agree to anything, so I quickly packed up my rations and drove them over on a mule cart. I didn't know where Wang Zhenjun's family lived, so I found them here. When others ask the same question, he gives the same answer. As a result, except for the master chef in the canteen who was still cooking, almost everyone in the mining bureau knew that Wang Zhenjun's eldest brother from his hometown in the countryside had sent him food. This originated from Wang Zhenjun borrowing the stored food. After Lao Li left, those who got the answer immediately whispered among themselves. The old farmer in the countryside has a harder time than us. Why does he go home to ask for food? That's right. Most of the food is supplied to the city. How many people can eat in the countryside? In the county where Wang Zhenjun's hometown is, more than 10,000 people died of starvation, and most of them were farmers in the countryside. You can imagine how tragic situation. My hometown county originally had a population of more than 30,000 people, but now there are only more than 10,000 people left. Well, the people in my wife's family's production brigade are almost all hungry. So miserable? Are all your hometowns like this? I have always lived in the city and I don't know much about the situation down there. We have commercial grain, and our chance of survival is far higher than that of farmers who don't have much food after paying public grain. Thank you to the country, thank you to the leaders, thank you very much. Although we are not full, at least we will not starve to death. I remember that in 1961, the production team in my hometown only had 5 kilograms of wheat rations for the whole year. How could he be willing to ask his brother for it? What's so strange? Doesn't his wife ask for food rations from her parents' family every year? Didn't you forget that her sister-in-law came to ask for food with her baby in her arms during confinement? Maybe it's their family's tradition to ask for food from the countryside. He is from the Wanglu Brigade. The Wanglu Brigade is famous for not having a single person starve to death. That being said, life in the Wanglu Brigade must be very tight. The rations are also based on points. If you give your rations to others, you will be hungry. Looking at his appearance, he is so heartless. Listen to Lao Li, his brother doesn't even know where he lives. I haven't heard him mention any relatives in his hometown. In the midst of everyone's discussion, Wang Zhenjun walked out with a livid face. Seeing his expression, everyone pretended that they had not said anything just now and were doing their own work, but their eyes were fixed on Wang Zhenjun's back, and Wang Zhenjun arrived at the door. When he saw Wang Zhenqiu, he lowered his voice and shouted, "What are you doing here? Do you know what impact it will have on me?" Wang Zhenqiu touched the patch on his dogskin hat with a naive and careless look. He pretended not to notice Wang Zhenjun's suppressed anger and said with a smile, "My youngest, I will give you some food. Didn't you say that your nephew-in-law is pregnant? Isn't there enough food at home? Your sister-in-law and I are getting older, and our work is not as good as when we were young. The rations we share have to supplement those of your nephews, nieces, and grandsons. It's hard to squeeze this out through your teeth. Don't be too little. If you think it's too little, don't you understand what I'm saying? Why do you come to where I work?" He did not refuse the food sent by Wang Zhenqiu, but he only cared that Wang Zhenqiu came to the wrong place and at the wrong time. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 396. Wang Zhenqiu's already cold heart suddenly froze, but he still had a smile on his face. "I don't know where your family lives? Have you forgotten? My youngest. You entered the city more than 10 years ago. In the first 2 years, you would go home to collect food rations, but then you disappeared for 10 years in a row, which made us worried. We didn't even know where your family lived. It wasn't until your family invited us to Mingxuan's wedding last year that we found out. You were transferred from the coal mine to the mining bureau, and you were relieved. Stop talking, Wang Zhenjun interrupted him with a low growl, his expression becoming even more ugly. I came to see you yesterday, but you turned around and left. Do you come to my workplace today to laugh at my jokes? He looked around and found that there were few people around, so he felt relieved a little. How could it be? Wang Zhenqiu looked very surprised. Yesterday our niece came to see me in an emergency, and you forgot. Oh, I forgot. You don't recognize your niece. You only met her once when my daughter got married last year. You don't remember. It makes sense. Let's not talk about her. I told you yesterday that the food reserve is everyone's life-saving food and belongs to the collective. I can't make the decision alone. I can't lend you a few £100. I am now what I sent you is my family's food rations. I'll see if I can give you some more when the food is distributed next year. Don't come here again, sending such a small amount of food is not embarrassing enough. Wang Zhenjun thought that he had brought a lot of grain in a mule cart, but now he took a closer look and realized that, my God, even such a small amount of grain had the nerve to be delivered to him in a big way using a mule cart, making people think that he had received a lot of rations. Wang Zhenqiu's eyes widened. Do you think I'll embarrass you by sending it to your work? Don't worry, I'll change it next time. Just leave your address with me and I'll send it directly to your home next year so no one knows. You asked me about food. No need, Wang Zhenjun said coldly. How could he not understand the thoughts of the mud-legged man from the countryside? If I knew where I lived, I would definitely come here to enjoy the autumn breeze. If Wang Zhenqiu knows it, then Miao Fengqin will know it. If Miao Fengqin knows it, the other brothers and sisters-in-law will definitely know it. If the word spreads, everyone will know his home address. A fellow villager will definitely come to look for him every now and then. Borrow food, borrow cloth stamps, sugar stamps, food stamps, etc., or ask yourself to find jobs for them and eat commercial grain. Don't give it to them. It will be bad for their reputation if they go out and talk nonsense. Here, give me a shit. His own family was having a hard time, and he wanted to slice and boil cabbage roots every day. How could he give it to them? Wang Zhenqiu stood there with a helpless look, which was very unpleasant in the eyes of interested people. Wang Zhenjun is the younger brother, dressed up brightly, riding on Baitling, wearing jeweled flowers on his hands, with slicked hair, standing arrogantly. Wang Zhenqiu is the elder brother, with thick hands and feet, a weathered face, patches all over, nodding and bowing, very pitiful. Comrade Wang Zhenjun, you can't say that Li Dazhu, who was looking at the door, really couldn't stand it. Of course, he did it on purpose. He just looked down on Wang Zhenjun's ungrateful appearance. Your brother is well-intentioned. He is a countryman, he is simple and honest, but you cannot let him be as smart as us city people, considering all aspects. Hearing Li Dazhu's voice, Wang Zhenjun forced a smile. Yes, you are right, I am not in a good mood, and my tone of voice is a bit harsh. Brother, I'm sorry, you won't be angry with me. Bar. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 397. Angry? How come? You are my brother. I provided food, clothing, and schooling when I was a child. How can I bear to be angry with you? Wang Zhenqiu was as honest and simple as before. You have finally made a living, and the whole family is the same city people. I feel very relieved, happy, not angry, even if I don't see you for 10 or 8 years, I just know that you are doing well. Just when Wang Zhenjun felt something was wrong, Wang Zhenqiu quickly turned around and said to Li Dazhu, Comrade, please help me. I am old and not as strong as before. Help me unload my things. When he said this, he sighed deeply, full of emotion that comes from a person reaching his twilight years. Okay, Lee Dazu helped move the cabbage and radish. As he moved it, he said, "Comrade Wang Zhenjun, you are so lucky. Look how much your brother loves you. There are sweet potatoes, dried corn on the cob, and cabbage, radish, and dried beans. In our city, this is almost a month's ration for adults. Your brother and sister-in-law are over 50 years old, and they don't know how to save it." "Hey, comrade, what are you talking about?" "There's no need to say anything." Wang Zhenqiu stopped Li Dazu from what he was saying. "Comrade, I can't enter your unit, and I'm embarrassed to do so with this look. Please help me get the youngest in. The youngest has never worked since she was a child, so she will definitely not be able to carry these things. I have to go home, the weather is very cloudy, and the wind is blowing." Okay, just go home with peace of mind." Wang Zhenqiu spoke to Wang Zhenjun again, but when he didn't get a response from Wang Zhenjun, he drove the mule cart away in despair. Li Dazu shook his head. He knew the ins and outs of the Wang family and understood many of the words as soon as he heard them. Although the bystanders didn't quite understand, they could learn a lot of information from Wang Zhenqiu's words. Don't think that the old man didn't see the two clerks poking their heads, the two who were the most curious and the most talkative. This Wang Zhenjun will have a hard time in the future. If you don't accept it, and treat the big brother who comes from afar, it goes without saying that everyone should give a thumbs up for this character, but you are too dissatisfied and reluctant to accept it. You only have such a pattern in your mind, and you won't be able to get away with it in the future. Great expectations. Of all the employees in the Bureau of Mines, who didn't come in with a broken head? This is an agency, and everyone wants to move up. As you advance to a higher level, your salary will increase accordingly. The way to get yourself promoted is to step on others. A few days ago, Wang Zhenjun asked Wang Zhenjun to borrow money from his in-laws because of the trouble caused by Lu Jinhua's sister-in-law. Your plans for promotion were in vain? Well, such a person should not be promoted to a high position, but should be a small secretary in peace, lest once he becomes prosperous, he will not recognize his relatives, exclude dissidents, and create a mess in the unit. After delivering the things to Wang Zhenjun's place of work, Li Dazu encountered several colleagues who stopped him to ask about the situation. "What can we say about this brother?" Li Dazu shook his head. "Poor brother, he worked so hard to come and leave, he didn't even get a mouthful of hot water, and he still had to face his brother." He frowned and felt that he was embarrassed. "Oh my God, I should have poured him an enamel jar of hot water to drink and warm himself up. I was so busy looking for someone to help him that I forgot." Li Dazu shook his head and continued to guard the door of the mining bureau. The 3 or 2 people who were left chatting together suddenly seemed to explode, exchanging some of what they had seen and heard at the door. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 398. My dear brother, my dear brother, my dear brother came here to receive this kind of treatment? You didn't see the expression on Wang Zhenjun's face. He was angry and disgusted. He probably felt that his brother had embarrassed him and that the food he sent was too little. If it were my brother, I wouldn't even give him a single old cabbage gang member, but I would give him sweet potatoes, dried corn on the cob, cabbage, radish, and dried beans. Country people are simple and honest. Didn't you hear what Lao Li said? We have to be careful about Wang Zhenjun. This guy is no good. His character is not good. He treats his own brother like that, let alone others. If he gets promoted, won't those of us who often compete with him be doomed? Yes, we can't let him get rich. His wife is the same as him. Didn't you listen to her sister-in-law's cry? You can't exclude us too obviously, otherwise he will definitely hate us. Let's pretend we don't know about it, bury it in our hearts, and don't mention it in front of him. Go back and quietly report to Director Wang, suggesting that she should not go to Wang Zhenjun or criticize him if she hears any news, otherwise Wang Zhenjun will definitely keep us people in his heart and wait for an opportunity to retaliate. This is the case with people who are good looking but also hold grudges. I don't know who filed the complaint, but it will definitely knock us all into the water. It makes sense, it makes sense. A gentleman is magnanimous, and a villain always has a close relationship. We can't guard against the villain, and we can't offend him. Wang Zhenjun didn't know that many of his colleagues were talking about him behind his back. He looked angrily at the little food at his feet, which was not enough to fill his teeth. He had embarrassed himself so much. He remembered his brother. But he couldn't take action. He knew that if he dared to show any dissatisfaction, others would definitely accuse him of being ungrateful. Unable to swallow a single breath and unable to take it up, Wang Zhenjun could only pour himself an enamel jar of water, mix it with the cold boiled water in it, tilt his neck, drink it cleanly, and suppress the air that was stuck in his throat. At this time, his colleague Zhou Chenglong came over and said, "Comrades in the army, let's discuss something." "What's the matter?" Wang Zhenjun's face was full of smiles. Zhou Chenglong's brother-in-law works in the municipal party committee. It is said that he is a big cotter. Zhou Chenglong's job is to follow his brother-in-law's route to the mining bureau, although he is the same as Wang Zhenjun. Officers receive the same salary, but their status in the Bureau of Mines is different. Zhou Chenglong looked around a few times, his eyes glued to the grain on the ground, rubbed his fingers, and said with a smile, "I heard that your brother from the country gave you grain, borrow some. I'll get the rations next month, I'll give it back to you." Wang Zhenjun couldn't breathe and almost fainted. The matter of borrowing food was still to come. He did not dare to offend Zhou Chenglong and borrowed 5 kilograms of dried sweet potatoes and 2 corn cobs. As soon as he got home from get off work, he saw many neighbors at home, all coming to borrow food. The houses where the employees of the Bureau of Mines live are allocated by their units. They are not far from the Bureau of Mines. If there is any trouble, everyone will know about it immediately. "Comrades in the army, let's discuss something. Your family also has a supply of commercial food, and you don't have any children. The rations are not low. You will definitely not be able to finish what your brother gives you. Lend some to us, and we will return it to you when we have enough money. It's good to have a brother. Life is so difficult and I'm afraid I'll starve you. You also got a lot of food from Comrade Jinhua's parents' family before. There must be some left over. Please borrow some. You can't watch us starve to death." I'm not sure yet whether it will be released on the 10th or the 13th. The editor didn't give me an exact time. Anyway, it was an update of 50,000 words on the day it was released. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 399. Wang Zhenqiu had already expected that his move would definitely make Wang Zhenjun a stranger inside and out. If you borrow, you may not be able to repay it, and more people will get wind of it. If you don't lend, or if you don't have food to lend, you will definitely offend others. He is not the only one who is small-minded. The final result can be imagined. If you want to continue to make trouble, it is no less than a daydream. Maybe they are really blood brothers, and they have almost the same desire to retaliate in their bones. Although they are brothers, in Wang Zhenqiu's heart, his family and the young and old of Wanglu Brigade are more important than Wang Zhenjun. He cannot let Wang Zhenjun harm every plant and tree in Wanglu Brigade, and he does not want to let Wang Zhenjun take whatever he wants. When Wang Zhenqiu thought of this, he had already driven a mule cart to the post office. After waiting for a while, he didn't see Lu Zhang and Feng Qingxiu coming out. Just when he was wondering if they had finished sending letters and went shopping, he saw someone who often went to Wanglu. He-hi, a postman from the brigade who delivered letters, came out, pushing a bicycle with parcels hanging and bundled on it. "Comrade He-hi," Wang Zhenqiu called him. He-hi looked back and saw him and smiled. "Hey, Captain Wang, what are you doing here? I was just about to ask you, aren't you a postman in the county? Why are you in the city?" Wang Zhenqiu looked at his full bicycles. "Or were you promoted and transferred to the city? Where are you?" "I sorted out the letters and packages that the county plans to send out early in the morning, sent them here, and transported them to other places from here. By the way, I took the letters and packages sent to our county back, so as to save the city's postman an extra trip." Yes, after He-hi explained, he asked him in turn, "Do you always come to the city to send letters? How about delivering them to the county?" Wang Zhenqiu said hurriedly, "I came to do some errands. I took my niece and her husband to the city to send something on the way. I didn't stop in the county town. Did you see them there? My niece, who you know, is King Xiu. They didn't tell themselves to go shopping after sending the items, so they wouldn't leave so rudely." He-hi's answer was as he expected. "I saw him, inside, with a man in an old military uniform, working on something. That's my niece and nephew-in-law." After Wang Zhenqiu waited for He-hi to leave, he sat on the mule cart and waited with peace of mind. Not long after, he saw Lu Zhang and Feng Qingxiu coming out side by side, and hurriedly waved to them, "Here, here." Hearing the shout, Feng Qingxiu and Lu Zhang immediately walked over quickly. "Uncle, have you been waiting for a long time?" Lu Zhang first apologized. It was the 12th lunar month, and there were a lot of people collecting and sending things. There were quite a few people with 3 or 5 relatives and friends from other places. They lined up for a long time before it was their turn. They sent food to 3 comrades, and when they checked the letters of introduction and packages it took some more time. "I just arrived too." Wang Zhenqiu didn't admit that he had been waiting for a while and asked them to get in the car. "Are you still going to the store? Lu Zhang must have a ticket when he comes back this time," so he asked. Feng Qingxiu smiled and said, "I was planning to go see what I can buy. The Chinese New Year is coming soon, so it's time to prepare New Year's goods." Zhang Yuejin works in the county town and is familiar with the staff at the grocery store. Lu Zhang and Feng Qingxiu have never gone shopping and are worried that the quantity of things will not be enough to account for when they return home, so they plan to buy some things in the city and take them back. When they got home and took it out, no one else would think of mixing it with some supplies from the space. Except for the two of them. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 400. Wang Zhenqiu did not go in with them, but guarded the mule cart outside. The mule carts they borrowed had to be brought back to the Wanglu brigade unharmed, which was the largest labor force. Lu Zhang and Feng Qingxiu walked into the grocery store and found that many counters were empty. There were no eggs in the egg counter, and no pastries in the pastry counter. Most of the salespeople were busy chatting while mending. Feng Qingxiu was immediately dumbfounded. What was going on? Out of stock? Or sold out? Lu Zhang spat out calmly. Fortunately, there is some loose sugar in the sugar cabinet, and there are some lean meat and bones left on the butcher table, which are generally not popular. The price of fat and lean pork is the same at 70.20 kilograms. In the absence of cooking oil, citizens prefer fat meat. Unless the meat ticket expires, they will not queue up to buy lean meat and bones. However, buying the meat often has to be cut by a master chef. You have to buy the cut meat regardless of whether it is fat or thin. You have no right to choose. Lu Zhang brought back 4 kilograms of meat stamps in different denominations. He didn't use them when he was in the border defense force because there was no meat in the canteen. "Comrade, please cut us 2 kilograms of meat. This is the front leg meat, right?" Cut the front leg meat. After Feng Qingxiu finished speaking, she looked at the remaining head and hooves in the water. How do you sell pig hooves? What about the pig head? Sell. The meat must be the meat of that day, but the weather is cold and the color is not so bright. 2 kilograms of meat? Good guy. I have been a master chef for so many years, and this is the first time I have seen someone cutting 2 kilograms of meat at once after receiving the meat ticket first, the master chef said while neatly cutting off a piece of front leg meat. A lot more, a full 2 kilograms. Pig's trotters are only a dime, and this is the only one left. Except for the milk, most people don't buy it. It's too troublesome and has no meat. The cooked pig's trotters outside are only a dime. So cheap? Feng Qingxiu said hurriedly, do you need tickets? We only have 2 kilograms of meat tickets left. The master thought for a while, I don't want your vote for the pig's trotters, nor the pig's head. The meat from the pig's head is cooked and fragrant. You don't need to vote for the water, and the price is low. The remaining half of the pig's head weighs almost 4 pounds and costs 50 cents 1 pound. It's time, if you keep putting it down, no one will buy it. People who want to buy meat usually queue up early in the morning. If they want it, state-owned restaurants will tell them in advance. If they don't tell them in advance, they don't want it. Sometimes meat cannot be sold not because citizens don't want to buy it, but because their supply is limited and the meat stamps have run out. This rarely happens because meat is in short supply most of the time. Feng Qingxiu asked Lu Zhang to pay the bill, and asked how to sell the tube bones. No tickets, 1 penny per pound. Ajiang, buy some, and make some bone soup for everyone. Zibao can drink it too, or make some noodles. So Feng Qingxiu bought 2 kilograms of lean meat, half a pig's head, a pig's trotter, 2 tube bones and a large piece of pig intestines that were free of charge. The total cost was 3 yuan and 98 cents. Patron. Turning around, Lu Zhang bought 2 kilograms of high-grade toffee for 5 yuan. Sugar coupons cost 2 caddies, milk candies cost 2 caddies, and fruit candies cost still 2 caddies, but fruit hard candies are much cheaper. Feng Qingxiu complained, just buy some fruit candies. It doesn't hurt when other people's children come, and it doesn't attract attention. It doesn't matter if you don't take out the candies, and it doesn't matter if you take them out. This doesn't tell other people how we live our lives good. I didn't think about it for a moment, so I just wanted to give our children something good to eat. Lu Zhang touched his head and bought it. It was too late to regret it.